So this is chapter 27, lecture, part 1. Chapter 27 and chapter 28 actually are the two chapters that continue on with the decision making, but explore some of the new thinking and more innovative ways of looking at using different tools for decision making in managerial accounting. And so these two chapters really represent some of the more recent thinking and sort of recent implementation of new ideas. The topics in this chapter are really lean manufacturing and activity analysis. And one of the things that maybe some people have heard of is just-in-time manufacturing. That would fall into this. But it's the idea of the lean enterprise, the more streamlined enterprise, and it's being an enterprise that supplies products and services with an emphasis on quality, low cost, fast response with immediate availability. So again, it's a really a way of optimizing the way the enterprise serves its clients and its customers, providing high quality, low cost products that are tailored to the customer's needs, that are available quickly and immediately, are available in different formats, but are done so in a way that makes the enterprise function the most efficiently and effectively for both the company and for the consumer. So that's the idea of the lean enterprise. So what we have is a number of sort of lean principles that really kind of govern what we mean by operating as a lean enterprise. The first idea, of course, would be to reduce inventories. And what we're going to do is, by virtue of having higher quality, focus on quality, that's going to help us reduce production problems. So we're going to focus on quality, first-time quality. We're going to develop relationships with reliable suppliers, so they're getting quality raw materials. We're going to train our workforce so that we have quality products coming off the assembly line, for instance. So our whole way of doing things is going to be different so that we carry less inventory, which of course will reduce the cost to the company. Lead time, we're going to try to reduce lead times. And again, we're thinking about in a manufacturing environment. There's two different types of lead times. One is value-added lead time. And value-added lead time is really the time it takes to convert raw materials into finished goods. So it's the actual production time that we are spending actually converting raw materials into finished goods. Non-value-added time is, and we'll come back to this later through an example, is basically wait times. So times in which we're waiting and not actually engaged in the conversion of a product from a raw material to finished goods. So waiting can be an in-batch waiting time. And again, we'll come back to this. Or the time it takes to move a product from one process to another. And so what we want to do is minimize that so that we have the least amount of wasted time as possible. Wasted time, of course, is wasted money. Setup times. So setup times are every time we're going to make a particular product, we need to set up the machinery, set up all the assembly, set everything up so that we can then go ahead with the process so that it runs smoothly. So if you think about it, making sure, if you were doing a wood project, making sure you had all the screws and tools and let's say, cutting jigs and everything all ready and in place, ready to go, so that you could begin working on a wood project. And that's the same thing in a factory. Everything has to be calibrated and set up so that it can produce a particular product. And so what you'd want to do typically is that you'd want to reduce the amount of setup time. You'd want to run as many products as possible. Once you take the time to set up the production line, you'd want to run as many products through it. That would seem to make sense. So you'd want to increase the batch size, typically. But if you increase the batch size, then, so if you have an increased setup time, let's say you have a high or a lengthy setup time. So your setup time takes quite a while. And so if it takes quite a while, then you're going to want to run a lot of products through it. So every batch of products, you're going to want to make a lot of products. But if you increase the batches, then what that's going to do is basically it's going to increase your inventory. And of course that, as we just talked about up above, it's going to increase your setup times. And of course, that's wasteful spending. So what we're going to want to do is there's a trade-off between the setup times and the batch sizes, because if you increase the batch size, then that's going to be a negative. So obviously these would be negatives, while this would be a plus in this case, because it would naturally you'd want to run as many products as possible through. So we're going to go through an example of that in a moment, and you can see how that would work. What we're going to do is also focus on products versus processes. So we're going to reduce, if we do that, we're going to reduce the amount of moving time. So we're going to have less processes. We're going to have less moving time between one process to another. We're going to, in that case, have less work in process. So we're going to have less work in process departments, less work in process inventory. We're going to have lower lead time. And all that then, of course, is going to lower costs. And that's what we want. We're going to be focusing on teams versus individuals. We're also going to focus on employee empowerment. So employees can make decisions. They don't have to wait for other people to make decisions. They can make the decisions. They can also perform a variety of tasks. So not one employee is just doing one tiny little task over and over and over, but they can perform a variety of tasks. And that makes, again, the emphasis is really on producing the product as opposed to being focused on the process. Another lean principle is pull manufacturing versus push manufacturing. So another way of thinking about this is made to order. So we're not carrying around a bunch of inventory. We're only carrying around enough inventory to produce our orders. So obviously that's going to reduce the amount of inventory that we need. And if you think about it, in the old days, we used to carry tons of inventory on hand just in case somebody needed a product, or we'd produce a lot of products and those products would be sitting in inventory in case somebody needed them. Now what we're using is, of course, technology to better forecast the need for products from the customer. So we're understanding better what the customer is going to be ordering or what the customer is going to be needing. Even in a retail environment, we can pretty much forecast what our demand is going to be. Then that's going to drive our production. And then that's going to drive what we order from our suppliers. So that all of a sudden starts to become one interconnected chain. All along the way, we can use that to reduce our inventory. Of course, there's going to be a focus on quality. When quality is substandard, we have costs associated with rework in production, scrap, and that's on the production side. And once it's sold, we have the costs associated with recalls or warranties, repairs, things like that. So plenty of costs associated with low quality. And of course, supply chain. What we want to do is have reliable suppliers who can deliver the inventory, the raw materials when we need them. We can rely upon them getting them there when we need them. So we don't have to carry that any more than we need. We know that they can get there at the right time when we need them in our production. And of course, in exchange for that relationship, we can enter into more longer term arrangements. And then of course that will save us costs. So more cost effective relationship. So those are really the key lean principles. Let's take a look back at the setup cost example. So let's take a look at an example of lead time and calculating what the value-added and non-value-added times are and how the setup and batch times relates to this. So let's just take a very simple example so we can understand lead time. So let's assume that we're in a group of 6 people and we're going into a sporting event. And let's say that we have to purchase the ticket at a ticket counter, and we have to do some paperwork and use our credit card and so forth. And let's say it takes 1 minute for each of us to purchase the ticket. And the question is, how much time is it going to take for all of us to finally get into the sporting event? So first of all, the value added, and I'm just going to put that as VA, the value added time is the time it actually takes to do the process. Okay, in this particular example, it takes 1 minute to purchase the ticket. And so the value added time in this process is really 1 minute. Okay, the problem is that we purchase our ticket and then we have to go stand and wait for the other 5 people to purchase their tickets, and then we all enter into the sporting event together. So again, this assumes that we're a batch of 6 people and we all enter into the sporting event at the same time. So basically then we have value added time and we also have wait time. And the wait time is the in-batch wait time, is what we're going to call it. So let's put that in. So in-batch. In other words, within our group, how long do we have to wait? And the way we're going to figure that out is we're going to, and that's again, waiting for the rest of the people to wait. So it's going to be, in this particular case, it's going to be the value added time of 1 times the batch amount, which is 6, minus 1. So this is the batch, and this is the value added time. Okay, so we've got 1 times 5 equals 5. So our value added time is 1. Our non-value added time is